let's keep going on. Number 8, the bias of the mainstream media as they covered the London protesters at the G20. You have these ex-beauty queens on Fox News and all these, talking heads with these. They're very attractive, to say the least, and they're talking about, all these crazy lunatics that are part of the G20 protests, these anarchists, these anti-capitalists, these crazy lunatic fringe people, but they never take time out to interview them. I think Fox News actually put a camera on one of them, and the guy was very well educated and started making his points, and the camera immediately got pulled off of him. I mean, you should have seen it. It was just incredible. But they can't have any protesters making sense, and so they didn't cover that at all. And then they pulled back, and then of course they're going to concentrate on the people throwing chairs through the window and stuff like that. But and they never pan across the crowd and show the signs about the New World Order. They rarely do anything like that. So the bias of the mainstream media covering these protests is so obvious to me, and the sheeple that buy into it, I don't know what to say. I just don't know what to say. Number 9, I guess you've heard that the FASB is relaxing the mark-to-market accounting rules, thus allowing the banks to not have to take the full blow of the full loss of these toxic assets. Therefore, the bank, the numbers on the banks will look better. So, that's probably one of the reasons why the stock market has recovered a little bit from 6,500 to 8,000, but that's just a temporary thing. But, if they can't actually get good numbers, they'll just change the way they do the accounting. I mean, it's Enron accounting all over again, and it's just sickening how they allow the banks to get away with that. All right, number 10. I have a YouTuber, Father Judgment. I watch him sometimes. I think he's got some pretty good videos, and he made an awesome comment, and I thought it was so cool that I just wanted to include it in my list. It's one of those nuggets of information that you get that you just feel like you don't want to lose it, because I think a lot of you can sympathize with this, but when I criticize Barack Obama, inevitably someone will tell me that I do it because he's black and I'm a racist or something like that, and that's certainly not the case. I think I stated what my position is on racism and in my previous video, so anybody that's watched my videos knows my stance on that, and I reject racism in any way, shape, or form. But here's a YouTube statement by Father Judgment, and for some reason I just really like that statement. Here it goes. We don't judge the man by the color of his skin, but you choose to defend him by the color of his skin. Who is the racist? So man, Father Judgment, that's an awesome freaking statement. And next time that happens to me when I'm criticizing the policies of Barack Obama and they start that crap, man, I got that saying memorized. I think that's an awesome statement. Anyway, moving right along, number 11. Obama threatens to withhold government funding to GM Motors unless the CEO resigns. So basically, Obama fired the CEO. My Sacred Honor made a video and called General Motors, called them Government Motors, and asked for a bailout. I'm totally with you on that. I mean, I have tons of GM cars. I mean, not tons, but throughout my lifetime, I bought a lot of GM cars, and I'll never do that again. All my Ford friends, I'm going to have to go stand in their crowd now, so... I always thought I'd be a GM man, but not anymore. I can't be a Government Motors guy anymore after what they did. And that CEO should have said something on his way out, but instead he took his $20 million and skulked away to his mansion. But he should have said something. I mean, what an opportunity! If the President of the United States fires you and you're the CEO of a company, what an opportunity to get up in front of the media and to talk about how evil that situation is. And he could have really lambasted Obama if he wanted to, but instead he took his $20 million bonus and he's going to go sit in his mansion. So I'm totally for boycotting Government Motors. I'm all about that. That's never buy a General Motors car in my life ever again. Okay. Number 12. Unemployment officially reported at 8.5%, 13 million jobs. The real numbers are probably around 15% or more. So think about the effects of 13 to 26 million people being unemployed in the United States, and think about the saying, idle hands are the devil's workshop, and then think about that as far as the rash of violence that we see on TV, and I'm going to cover that a little bit too later on, but the social fabric of a society starts to break down when that many people don't have a job. It's just a simple fact. Okay, number 13, here's a quote from Ayn Rand. I picked this up from another YouTuber. I don't remember his name, so I apologize for that. But he's the one who reminded me of it. And it's such an awesome quote, I got to share it with you. And this was written by Ayn Rand in the 1950s. And so let me share this, and I'll put it on the edit tabs so you can see it as well. Here goes. It only stands to reason that where there's sacrifice, there's someone collecting sacrificial offerings. Where there's service, there is someone being served. The man who speaks to you of sacrifice is speaking of slaves and masters, and intends to be the master. So that was written back in the 1950s by Ayn Rand. It's very applicable to today's environment, where you're going to hear Barack Obama talking about how everyone needs to sacrifice for the good of society. We need to sacrifice, for this and sacrifice for that. And the person who speaks to you of sacrifice is, there's someone collecting sacrificial offerings, and the person who's speaking to you of sacrifice is also speaking of slaves and masters. And you can be sure that the person who's speaking about sacrifice intends to be the master. So I thought that was a very applicable quote for today's times. Number 14. Let me just talk about violence, and a lot of this has to do with gun violence. And if ever there is a time that we need to own guns to protect ourselves and our family and our property, it's in today's time. So you know what I think about the Second Amendment. I don't need to get passionate about that, but I'm a strong believer in the Second Amendment. Let me just share some of the crazy stuff that's going on. And the reason I put it in the list is I don't want to forget about it in a month from now. It's very hard for, I'm not a brainy guy. I can't recite like all these statistics like months from now and like be able to recite what happened, and especially with all the things going on, and it's overwhelming what's going on in our society and keeping up with all the different things. So for me, I got to make lists. It's just how I deal with things. I'm a list making kind of guy. So just what I am. But anyway, let me go through the list of things that have caught my attention in the past few months. In Alger, Washington, September 2008, a mentally ill man who had been released from jail a month earlier shoots 8 people, killing 6. In Covina, California, December of 2008, a man dressed in a Santa Claus suit opens fire at a family Christmas party at his ex-wife's home, and sets fire to the house. 9 people are killed in the home. The gunman later kills himself. Geneva County and Coffee County, Alabama, March 12th, in a shooting spree that tears through several towns, a 28-year-old out-of-work man kills 10 people, including his mother and a toddler. March 21st, Oakland, 4 officers are killed in a shooting spree. North Carolina, March 29th, a heavily armed gunman shoots dead 8 people, many elderly and sick patients, in a North Carolina nursing home. Wow. And I pray, let's pray for the families of these victims. I mean, I really do pray for the families of these victims, and it's incredible. I read these things like I'm unattached, and I can just imagine the pain and suffering that the victims of the families of these victims are going through. It must, wow. I just don't know what to say. My heart goes out to them, and I pray that God will comfort them. But moving right along, Santa Clara, 6 people are shot dead in an apparent murder-suicide at a home in upscale Silicon Valley neighborhood. Binghamton, New York, April 3rd, up to 13 people are killed as a gunman goes on a rampage at a civic center. April the 4th, Pittsburgh man kills 3 officers. Let's not forget our Muslim friend Mozammel Hassan. Mozammel, I guess I'm pronouncing that right, Hassan, in Buffalo, New York. He worked at a TV station that supposedly the purpose of the TV station was to promote better understanding of the Muslim culture in America, and he's now charged with beheading his wife. The police officer at the scene said it was one of the most gruesome crime scenes he's ever seen. She was beheaded. I mean, some of my best friends are Muslims, so I'm not slamming Muslims, but I mean, what's going on, right? There's some crazy stuff going on. 5 children, and I just turned on the TV tonight, and I don't watch a lot of TV, but they're talking about 5 children are dead in Tacoma, Washington. I mean, that's what happens when you have your unemployment rate starts going up, and people are out of work, and they're worried about the future. So, this is, in my opinion, it's a direct result of the financial collapse that we're undergoing, and it's going to get worse.